It is indeed a pleasure to have this privilege to play here for you. We intend to give you a very fine program, so just settle back, relax, and enjoy the moment.
Good morning. Good morning. No matcha, but I'm in a great mood. Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. Still excited from last night. My Knicks with an important, pivotal playoff win. That's right. I'm going to be that obnoxious New York sports fan in the South. Yup. So enjoy it. Get ready. And you know what? Matter of fact, let me just let you know how obnoxious it's going to be. I don't know why that is showing up like this. Oh, wait. My chat is showing up funny. What is this? Hold on one second. Go camera only. Jared told me this might happen. We might have a funny view over here. Let's see. That's weird. That's weird that that's showing up over here. Huh. Let's just get that out of here. How about that? We're going to be obnoxious. We're going to play this. Because, you know, this is...
We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks.
That's right.
We are the New York Knicks. Say go New York, go New York, go. Go New York, go New York, go.
Say go New York, go New York, go. This is from 1994, y'all. It's a remix.
We're back on track on the floor, scoring more is 94, and the Knicks
Okay, it's not
are on
94,
tour,
but you get it.
This, we ain't never looked sharper. With Hubert, Bonner, Gray, and Harper. It's the
Okay,
Knicks.
those are the old names from the 90s. But good morning. Thanks for indulging me. I'm just being obnoxious. Yeah, my Knicks. That's right. We here. I'm gonna take off my towel. But we here, y'all. We here. Let me get back to the routine. Can y'all hear me okay? Everything good? Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Good morning. Let's get to Charleston. I know y'all don't want to hear about no damn Knicks. Damn sure ain't gonna be talking about no Hornets. Ever. All right, let me know if you can't hear me, anything like that. I'm playing around a little bit. All right, so thank you, D. Bartlett. Thank you. All right, let's get to the news. Let's get to why you were here. Prior to hitting that live button, I titled today's programming, like 1 year later, a retrospect. I mentioned it yesterday that Carolyn Murray, legendary media figure here in Charleston, anchor at WCBD Channel News 2, she sat down with me weeks ago and she did a retrospective piece. So I want to get into that. I want to talk about the retrospect. I want to talk about my IG rant yesterday. Thanks for the thumbs up, y'all. I want to talk about my IG rant yesterday, and like I started it here and then I had some thoughts and then I had even more thoughts, and there's some news clips that echo some of what I was saying yesterday about what we're seeing on King Street, about the proposed curfews, the proposed restrictions that are supposed to be imposed on food trucks and other mobile vendors. We're going to get to it. But first and foremost, seriously, y'all, today going to be hot. I have the privilege of working from home, so I don't have to necessarily be out in that heat. However, when I was out running errands, it was really hot. Please take care of yourself today. I believe it's supposed to be 6 degrees hotter than it was yesterday. Yesterday was like, for real, like getting in your car, opening the windows and the door, letting the air out. It was just really, that little bit of spring we had just went away. All right, so let's check out and see what Jared over here from Charleston Weather says about today. Most sunny, highs in the 90s. Let me see if he has Yep, here we go. Thursday's forecast, 94 degree high, 72 degree low. It's already there. All right, shout out to Jared. Be careful, y'all. Make sure you hydrate. Post and Courier, they did a piece on the Grimkey's nephew. There's a marker. I'm gonna just let y'all know I'm not the biggest Grimkey enthusiast, Grimkey sister enthusiast. I'm gonna admit it's biased, perhaps it's wrong, but I'm just not the biggest Grimkey, let me find out. No, I'm just not. They did amazing work, but I'm not that enthralled. So let's here's some highlights, I guess, at the bottom. 6 coastal South Carolina towns and cities will get millions less than expected in recovery funds because it's all going. That's interesting because those coastal towns usually help with tourism. That's interesting. Darius Rucker's doing Darius Rucker type deals, type things, unoffensive work. You know, try them out. High profile Charleston building won't become a hotel under new deal with the preservation group. Shout out to the preservation group, but make sure y'all start preserving some black stuff too. All right, cool. So let's go to the front page of the Post and Courier. We're gonna get into those videos real quick. Hey Rajon, good morning. Good morning, Donna. Good morning, Donna. If you're still watching on Facebook, good to see you as always. Yesterday, as I hopped off, I saw there was a mass shooting. It's really, really sad. We're living in a time where it's unprecedented violence, it feels like. I don't know if I'm a prisoner of the moment where, you know, I'm only seeing things through the lens of, you know, my perspective. But, you know, these mass shootings, we had a mass shooting here in Charleston. The one in North Charleston was definitely a mass shooting. We had a gunman out here. Good morning, Nicole. We had a gunman out in California, killed 8 people. I believe, I don't know if that's including himself because I know he killed himself as well. Really sad news to read or to see when I hopped off live yesterday. Spectacular sky. We talked about this at work. Me and my colleagues from all over the country talked about the super flower blood moon. Leave it up to Andrew Whitaker to take these pictures of the moon. He's always taking pictures of the moon. Shout out to Andrew. Nikki Haley made front page news here in the Post and Courier. Haley shares love of reading with Columbia kids. You're really trying it. She's really trying it. But McMaster, I think, got it locked up in terms of Republican candidacy for governor, running for re-election. Let's see right here. Okay. Horseshoe crabs, of course. All right. So we're going to close out of this. And let's hop over to News 2. Let's just jump into it. I mentioned it yesterday that I was involved in that Carolyn Murray piece. So she did a retrospective. I've got some thoughts. And it's all love and respect, and I was privileged and honored to be a part of it. But I've got some thoughts as to some curious editorial decisions. And I think it was illuminating when I sat down with Carolyn. She sat down with me after she already sat down with Tyler Bessinger. And I think his inclusion in this piece to me is the unfortunate piece, is the unfortunate point. So, but let's just play it.
After the murder of George Floyd on May 25, 2020, protests and riots rocked cities across the country. Charleston was one of those cities torched and torn up. That night, now a part of history, is seared into our collective memory.
I don't know about no torched.
1 year later, I met with people who have a connection to the Charleston riots. They each told me this city has not begun to recover because it has not acknowledged the root of the problem.
True.
As night fell on Saturday, May 30th, Charleston began to simmer.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
And then the city exploded. Cars on fire, storefronts of businesses busted, rioters fighting police and each other.
I honestly didn't think folks would take to the street. I was completely caught off guard. I didn't think that type of protest could exist here.
Mika Gadsden, an organizer and podcast host, says demonstrations against excessive police force around the country made its way to Charleston. She said police attacked the crowd with military-style force.
I was deeply disturbed to see tanks come down the street, SWAT teams, barricade bridges, the images of militarized police force. These were unarmed protesters. Why is that happening? If they've got more funding, if they have more tools and tanks and militarized equipment, why are there more deaths at the hands of police officers and not just Black people?
James Bessinger says he was among the peaceful protesters that day.
This is the part where I kind of get like, this is what both Corey and Tyler Bessinger are good at. They're good at They're good at reinventing themselves and presenting themselves as cogent voices. They're not cogent voices. They're literally white supremacists. And I don't believe in giving white supremacists platforms. I don't believe in extending white supremacists opportunities to speak because they don't have cogent political points of views. And what we're seeing is, and I'm just going to say this, I'm not, this has less to do about Carolyn Murray and her decision on who she chose to interview, and more about the attitudes here, or the literacy and the awareness of who these people are. And I think when you're a white man, a white cisgendered man, you're afforded credibility, and people often don't question it. Whereas I always question. Any white man talk to me, I'm looking, I'm lurking, I'm background checking, I'm asking, you know who this is? Like, I don't think that white men just get to hop on TV and reinvent themselves, especially someone who harassed and victimized children in an effort to support his lost cause bullshit narrative. And now he's sitting down here like a level-headed, I'm just a thoughtful conservative. You literally participated in the insurrection. I don't even have to cue up the video, y'all. Y'all know the picture that I posted on Facebook, and I got reported for posting a picture of Tyler's picture, reposting a picture that he posted to social media of him bragging that he participated in the insurrection, right? So I don't believe in giving these men, these people, these monsters platforms, especially people who courted, especially men who courted the Proud Boys and facilitated an opportunity for a hate group to come here and to throw up the white power sign and to also harass businesses, if not in Charleston, in Somerville. I just think there's no space for that here. And there are tons of people you could speak to. There are tons of conservatives who didn't participate in the insurrection. There are tons of conservatives you could have spoken to, and this is not the one I would speak to. Right. Yeah, why he's and this is why I say no, y'all. This is the thing. I know I lament about how I'm not giving this, how I'm locked out of rooms. I say no to a lot of things because of this type of mindset here, where any other place you would not like I referenced this a lot, and I just have to keep saying it. I grew up with a wide variety of news programming from specific cultural points of view. So a lot of Latinx, it wasn't called Latinx back then, but a lot of Latinx programming from their point of view, a lot of Caribbean programming, like the whole African diaspora was represented in the media that I consumed. And in those shows, there never was this whole both sides thing that Charleston is determined to lift up. This both sides. We got to get both sides. If there is no other side, that is not an other side. There is no other side. Like, George Floyd was murdered on camera. The city erupted, and in response to what we saw globally, the city erupted and reacted much like places in Paris, places in Europe, rather, places across the country. That's what happened, right? That's what happened. People who were tired of the city and its oppressive culture and oppressive tendencies reacted and responded. You don't need to talk to a white supremacist to get his perspective. But watch this. I know I spent a lot of time just bloviating just now, but watch this. I'm gonna tear this motherfucker up right now. Sorry for cursing this morning.
An LGBTQ conservative activist says he rushed to the streets in the wake of the George. James Bessinger says he was among the peaceful protesters that day. An LGBTQ conservative activist says he rushed to the streets in the wake of the George Floyd murder, but not because he believed Floyd's death was racially motivated.
Listen to the tone, his affect.
We can fix all of it if we fix the problem itself, which is police. We know George Floyd, we know Dante Wright, because those cases are picked up and shown repeatedly. A year later, now we hate each other. Our country's on fire, and I'm a conservative. I have family in law enforcement. I'm a veteran myself. But I'll be the first one to tell you that, yes, police reform needs to happen.
We should be more proactive about seeking ways to prevent these kinds of things.
Okay. Speak to a lot of white people. So this is the thing about Tyler Bessinger. You're not, and this is where I saw some black activists not make these distinctions, and I said this on Instagram Live months ago. There is a shout out to Chico the Man for your subscription. Shout out to you. There is a cross section of white supremacists, right? There's a cross section of white supremacists and chauvinists, right? Proud Boys are chauvinists. There's a cross section where that and police reform meet. And so I don't know, maybe I'm using the wrong analogy, but there's an intersection where, but there is like some sentiment. There is what you perceive as pro police reform sentiment. Proud Boys and white supremacists like Tyler Bessinger. Let me say it again. Proud Boys, Boogaloo Boys, some factions of the Boogaloo Boys, and Tyler Bessinger, another white supremacist from Charleston. Tyler Bessinger is a white supremacist. I'm saying that on purpose and intentionally. They are anti-police. And what I think was a miss by Carolyn Murray and her editorial team that helped her put this together, Tyler participated in insurrection. The insurrection was responsible for killing cops. Cops were killed during the insurrection. Cops were maimed and assaulted during the insurrection. We're trying to abolish the police state. We're trying to, if not abolish, reform the police state based on a very specific race analysis, right? They are anti-police. They are quasi-libertarian. Don't tread on me. Don't tread on my liberties. Don't infringe on my rights. We don't want any policing. We'll police ourselves. We are pro-militia. We've got guns. We can take care of our... Like, that's what they're about. No. We're trying to dismantle the carceral state, right? We're trying to lift up the issues within that that disproportionately impact black people. They are anti-military, they are anti-government, and they are anti-police. That's two different things. And I think there were some black organizers, not here in South Carolina per se, but I did see some people get confused when you see the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys show up and say, yeah, we know, stop, F the police. They're not F the police, NWA F the police. Hey, I'm tired of you harassing me. I'm tired of you kicking in my door. I'm tired of you policing my body in the projects. I'm tired of you arresting kids. That's not what they're coming from. They're coming from, we want to kill the police. We don't believe in the police. We believe that this is our country and we run this, and our militias can police our communities, and we want to be anti-government. And I think folks need to make that distinction. Tyler Bessinger does not support police reform. He does not support police reform. He said that, but he does not support that. A whole ass white supremacist. We can't keep platforming them. We cannot keep giving them platforms to speak. And people should be outraged. People should be outraged.
From happening in the first place.
Cameron Blazer is an attorney in Mount Pleasant. She says she was neither surprised by the protests nor the riots.
When the government continuously fails to answer the concerns of the people, I think this is what you can expect to see happen.
She represents people who were arrested that night. 1 year later, she says she expects protests, peaceful.
Shout out, wait, I didn't even make the connection. Old girl, let me get her name real quick. Let me see if do they put her name up here on the Chiron? Hold on.
Fails to answer the concerns of the people. I think this is.
She reached out to me after Carolyn Murray and her team reached out to her. She reached out to me and shout out to you, sweetie. Like, I really appreciate you asking me should you weigh in, and given the role you played following the uprisings, I thought it was critical that you participate in this piece. So shout out to you. Is her name Cam? I'm so sorry. I know Carolyn just said it. Oh, Cameron Blazer. Got you. Thank you, Stephen. Good morning, Stephen. Cameron, thank you, Cameron, for reaching out to me. And you were very, very cautious about your participation in this piece. And I appreciate it. I wish white folks moved like that. I wish white folks debated their presence in these issues and in the discussion of these issues. I wish more white folks practice that type of deliberation and like, hey, let me check in with a black person that I respect, and that you know, like I really appreciate Cameron for doing that. Thank you, Stephen.
This is what you can expect to see happen.
She represents people who were arrested that night. 1 year later, she says she expects protests, peaceful and destructive, to happen again.
Like it or not, until change
happens, tell me more.
We should expect more disruptions like this.
I took these concerns to the city of Charleston's police chief. Luther Reynolds pointed...
Letitia just looked it up something on Facebook. All right, we'll dig into it. To
answers in the city of Charleston's after-action report.
I'm not going to be defensive and say, hey, we did everything right because we didn't. Spontaneous is what they've learned from a lot of the research. The communication with our business community, with our residential communities, letting them know when we have protests. If we knew ahead of time, to be able to get more resources more quickly, because a riot like that takes a lot of staffing.
Reynolds says his department, like the Charleston community, is changing. The cries for reform are being heard loud and clear.
So how do we bridge those gaps? It wasn't created overnight. It's not going to get fixed overnight. But I can tell you, as a good leader, I better be listening to that voice. And that voice is growing. It's louder and louder. It's not going to go away.
And here is a look at changes happening in the Charleston Police Department 1 year later. A lead field commander will now...
I'll just pause it real quick. A lead field commander, use of software programs, some more digital surveillance, use of software program. I don't even know what that means. Supervisor group, regular updates via email. All right, it's just performative stuff. Community outreach division, business and neighborhood, public information team, disseminate information. We've seen that part. We've seen y'all get real busy on that Hootsuite with your plan tweets and whatnot, right? Clubs and shields. Yeah, I see you, Jessica. Clubs and shields. All right, let's hop out of that piece. Again, privileged to be asked to participate. It's unfortunate that a white supremacist was platformed in the process. Yeah, so let me make sure I close my New York Knicks out here. I mentioned the rally yesterday that took place, and then I mentioned the rally that took place yesterday from the Racial Justice Network and a number of other coalitions. Shout out to everyone from the Justice for All coalition who participated in, who helped plan it. Shout out to y'all for your planning and whatnot. Now, this is just raw footage of the rally. I haven't watched it, but we'll... Oh, Mark Pepper was there. Look at Mark. You see Mark over there? Oh, they learning new names? Good. All right, I want to fast forward. This is the Racial Justice Network. That's Elder Johnson. I know I'm being real, I encourage you all to go and check out this footage. This is WCIV on YouTube. I want to get to Jamal Sutherland's mother, if possible, just to hear a few words from her. I know we just had another mother speak right here, apparently, or another family member here. But I want to be careful and selective with how much I show in terms of Black pain and trauma. But let me just do this. Let me see what we got here.
Good evening, everyone. I want to let everybody know I am so happy to be able to speak before you again.
I want to say this is so encouraging to see Ms. Amy Sutherland participate in this action. I think it's critically important. I will say that they're not just from her. I think the tone from folks who are surrounding her has changed a lot. It's changed in different ways. It's gone in different directions, but being receptive to being a part of this action is really important. And so it just was important for her to stand in solidarity with certain people who've been pushing the narrative, who've been really fighting to get certain messaging through.
Ms. Tina took my entire speech. So I'm going to talk about something that we haven't been talking about. That's the ones that need to pay. There are people that should have been accountable from the day my son was murdered.
I want to see if they talk about the sheriff.
These people stayed on their job.
Okay.
They worked while my family couldn't go to work. I cannot understand a system where we see a full-blooded murder. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt he was murdered.
Yep.
We should not be wondering what we're going to charge them with, but when we're going to charge them. They should have been charged the day he died. I love everybody, but I'm getting sick and tired of seeing what's going on in this nation. America's supposed to be equal and just for all. Amen. But that's not how it's working out. It's working out that our sons, fathers, friends, cousins are getting murdered, and there's no justice. I was never a no justice person because in my little world, we thought everybody got justice. But the death of my son has opened my eyes to a part of the world I did not want to see. I now see how families feel. I now know how mothers feel when your sons don't come home and they haven't done anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Jamal never hurt anyone in that jail. There was no reason for anybody to put their hands on him.
That's it. I'm gonna leave it there. That's it. I encourage you again. This is WCIV, ABC News 4. Again, a Sinclair station. Just want to give that caveat or give that disclaimer. But this is raw footage of the rally. I did not watch it. I don't know if I see Wendell Gilliard's going up there. Cool Breeze is getting up there. I saw Emily get up there. I might play Emily right now because Emily's more than likely spoke. Oh gosh. See some interesting people. Let's see if the lawyers hopped up there. Nah. All right, let's see what Emily had to say. Emily from our Justice for All coalition. Let's see if we can.
Consolidated demands from the Justice for All coalition.
Okay, here we go. Buffering. Am I still on? I'm still on. Yeah, she's powerful. Over in here we go. Here we go.
Not paying for police vehicles, weapons, and increased militarization, liability insurance, and the millions spent on payouts for settlements that routinely follow when police commit crimes against the community. If our leaders tell the truth when they say that they aspire to create a safer and more just community, they will invest in people and communities instead of police and prisons. These are the consolidated demands from the Justice for All coalition. First is police accountability. We demand that the officers involved in Sutherland's death or murder be arrested and charged. We also demand.
Okay, so she reiterates a lot of the demands that I've sent out via newsletter that you all seen on social media. If you want those things, hit me up a DM. Well, just subscribe to the newsletter, and perhaps I'll restate those demands even as the story shifts. I'll continue to share that information. I wanted to hop over back to YouTube. I wanted to yeah, let's just watch this piece right here. I believe this is Kate Press text piece. She kind of recaps that rally.
Developing news right now, Charleston County leaders are reacting to the $10 million settlement coming after a man died at the Al Cannon Detention Center. The sheriff, council chair, and Jamal Sutherland's family all releasing statements late this afternoon. News 2's Kate Prestak spoke with Jamal Sutherland's mother at a rally calling for justice for her son. And Kate, the groups are calling for immediate action be taken by Solicitor Scarlett Wilson against the. Again, I said this on Instagram yesterday, and I want to reiterate that the settlement, the $10 million. I said it here too yesterday morning. The $10 million, that's family business. That's a civil suit. That's a civil case. That's a civil suit. That's over there, right? We need to keep making, even though the press is going to keep talking about, even the Post and Courier talks somewhat like 10 million. It's the largest payout, 10 million. First of all, it shouldn't even have ever happened. It shouldn't have ever happened. We shouldn't have to keep breaking these records and payouts and all these things shouldn't occur. And I think that there's a preoccupation with the payout and not with the actual issue and how broad it is, how wide ranging it is, and how it's a systemic issue versus an isolated incident, right? So I just want to keep reiterating that the $10 million, that's family business. Deputies involved in this particular case.
Carolyn, that's correct. And while the officers involved were fired by CCSO early last week, the organizations are calling for Solicitor Wilson to bring criminal charges this week. Now, the organizations that are involved, the Racial Justice Network, as well as Charleston Black Lives Matter, led the effort today. The group's calling for transparency and more action to be taken. Sutherland's family was present at today's rally, along with other families who lost their loved ones at the hands of police officers across the state. Amy Sutherland, the mother of Jamal Sutherland, asked everyone to remain peaceful, but did not waver in her calls for
I hear you,
justice,
Jessica.
asking those she sees as responsible for her son's death to face charges.
It's working out that our sons, fathers, friends, cousins are getting murdered, and there's no justice. I was never a no justice person because in my little world, we thought everybody got justice. But the death of my son has opened my eyes to a part of the world I did not want to see.
We have statements from the Charleston County Chair, from the Sheriff, as well as the North Charleston Mayor and the Sutherland family, all posted on our website, counton2.com. For now, live in downtown Charleston, I'm Kate Prestak, Count on 2.
Okay. So yeah, that was just a recap of that. Jessica, you say over here on Twitch, you wouldn't take $10 million for your living son, and his mother wouldn't have either. Absolutely, right? If presented with a choice, she'd rather have her son with her for sure. So yeah, just that preoccupation on that amount. Remember, that's not justice. That's not changing any of the things, the conditions that led to Jamal Sutherland being murdered at the hands of Fickett and Hall. It doesn't. Yeah, not at all. All right, let's switch back to King Street. Hey Jazz on Facebook. Let's switch back to yesterday's conversation regarding King Street and what's going on King Street. I've got a lot of thoughts. Let me see what video I watched earlier. I think here it is. Let's just do food trucks real quick.
New tonight.
I said this yesterday. I said brick and mortar members of the CVB, you can tell they're using violent incidents, right? They're using these violent incidents that have occurred to Trojan horse in other restrictions, right? So they're trying to keep King Street. They've always worked to keep King Street what it is. They've always worked to keep King Street predominantly white, just a place where tourists will be served up this very specific antebellum fantasy, this really ahistorical, just this real fantasy like environment. They've always worked to keep not just King Street but the surrounding business district. They've worked so hard to keep it white, to keep it devoid of real character, to keep it devoid of history and culture, and to have the racism and the white supremacy baked in and commodify slavery, commodify human atrocity. That might sound like strong language, but that's literally what Charleston tourism traffics in, right? That's why you stay at the former Citadel and don't know that that's a place where horrific things happen to Black people. And now you're just staying there because it's a pink hotel shaped like a castle, right? It's the reason why you go to sunbathe in Marion Square and it's shaped like a Confederate flag, and you don't make that connection, right? That I'm literally sunbathing on a Confederate flag shaped park, with an obelisk dedicated to Wade Hampton, another vicious and cruel white supremacist from our state's history. This is what the CVB is working hard to give you. That they really want you to go to Vendu and not think about what the word Vendu means or what Vendu meant in Charleston. That's what CVB is working hard to maintain. And I called it yesterday on Instagram when I said the brick and mortar members of the CVB are trying they're trying to eliminate competition too, because the food trucks bring a different element. The food trucks is not halls. The food trucks is not Oku. The food trucks represent a different type of taste, right? And that I'm all here for. I think you should have variety on King Street. I think we don't have any cultural variety anymore on King Street, so I think there should be at least some different types of variety in terms of what is sold to the public. And now we're seeing the members of the CVB, the very influential and moneyed faction, is trying to attack these mobile vendors because they don't want the competition. Plus, they're trying to scapegoat them. I said this yesterday. I know I was having fun with it. Street meat on a stick, a booze pop is not causing a spike in violence. People aren't saying, you know what, I'm going to that food truck, right after we pour out a Oku, right after we pour out a red bit, I'm gonna go over here to this booze pop, we gonna get it cracked. Nah, stop it.
Charleston leaders considering several moves that they hope will cut down on violence on King Street. Among those changes, stopping food trucks from operating late into the night. They hope this gets rowdy bar goers off the street, but vendors say it's not fair. News 2's Katie Turner joins us live in downtown Charleston. And Katie, vendors are putting up a fight against this ordinance.
Yeah, Carolyn, businesses like Booze Pops and this food truck right behind me say they sell more than just alcoholic ice cream and gyros. They also serve the community.
They do. And they're affordable and accessible. Let's just keep it a buck. I said this yesterday, where there's prohibition, where there are these prohibitive dress codes and certain types of, when I drove Uber, I'm gonna tell the story again. When I drove Uber, right? When I would drive the black guests from, like, let's say Atlanta or from wherever they were from, when I would drive the black guests, I got this question so regularly. I use it as unofficial research. They'd ask it in different ways, but I remember this one woman with her young son. She says she was on the phone. She was chatting it up with somebody as she got in, so I didn't talk to her. As soon as she hung up the phone, she said, "Excuse me." I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Oh, can you tell me one thing?" I said, "Sure, if I can." She was like, "Why is it when I walk into a restaurant, I can hear white folks drop their forks and look up at me and I can see that I'm the only black patron in the restaurant?" And I just shook my head and I'm like, "You're not alone." I said, "You're not alone." I said, downtown Charleston is really not a place where a lot of black folk who live here frequent. It's been hostile to us. And like, I got that kind of question in different forms. Like, where are the black people? I got that question a lot. Where do black people hang out? Right? Whenever my friends would come in, like if they were in the military, they had to train in North Charleston and they wanted to hang out, I'm like, "Well, where can we go?" Right? And I'm like, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hit or miss. It might be a night where they play our music. They might not be. We might end up at the poorhouse if they had a funk night, right? So I got that question a lot. And it's the inaccessibility of these, so certain places are just inaccessible. Certain places are hostile to black people. When you walk in, you don't feel welcome. You walk in, you're treated differently. And we know that's true because we knew from behind the scenes in food and bev how discrimination is practiced in some of these restaurants where you have black people you typically hired to be the back of the house staff. And even that term is problematic in using that term, right? You see, if you do see a black person working at these establishments, you see them at the back of the house. You see them cooking or cleaning in the back, right? You very rarely see black women hostess or black young girls as hostesses or at the front of the house, right? Again, problematic terminology that's rooted in white supremacy, right? And so when you go into these establishments, they're not inviting. But you going to a food truck, going to a booze pop stand, you don't have to deal with all that. You don't have to deal with a dress code. You don't have to deal with people's forks dropping when they see you and your black family and your black friends walk in. You don't have to deal with that. And so that's the other part of, like, these food trucks are accessible. The price points are accessible. The variety they offer is not as highfalutin. People, it's a whole college town. You got a college campus down the street. Like, what do you think kids eat? Like, what do you think these college students is looking for? They're not trying to get a nice prime rib at Hall's. They just want to get a burger. They want to get something cheap without having to sit in some drive-through at Cookout for an hour in West Ashley, right? Like, it just street meat ain't the issue at all.
Like moths to a flame, dozens flock to their trucks.
Evelyn, I see that comment. You're right. I don't think so.
During and after a night out on King Street.
Our mission statement is bringing communities together one booze pop at a time.
Owner Woody Norris is a veteran celebrating 5 years of sobriety.
I haven't tried any of my own products.
He started the business for his daughters.
These are who's going to own Booze Pops.
From one small cart selling alcoholic popsicles to a multi-truck fleet with locations all over the state. With a recent uptick in crime, city leaders are proposing all food trucks and stands within 250 feet of a restaurant close at 1:30.
We believe that if we get everybody out of there at a certain time, whatever that time is, and that's part of the debate.
That's what the business owners told him.
But not encourage people to stay till 3 and 4 in the morning.
And Booze Pops is not the only street vendor that could be taking a hit.
Our food trucks is the Gyro food stand. A lot of people know it as the Gyro food stand.
Gyro.
Depends on where you're from.
Multiple Gyro stands owned by the Bayumi family would be missing out on their busiest hours.
You know, just because we're not a brick and mortar business doesn't mean that we don't have the right to stand and
That's
sell
right.
our goods.
That's right.
Both businesses have been around for about 5 years and consider themselves to be friends to the community.
We get them a free water. We set them down, we ask for their phone, and we get them Uber home and get home safely.
And as they continue to serve as a guiding light for patrons leaving the bars, they brace for big changes to come on King Street.
It just, you know, it doesn't benefit anybody from shutting us down.
See,
and I don't think that it's fair.
And that's the tell. Look at the Chiron, y'all. That's the tell right here. This is how you know who's really pushing for this. It says, and I'm about to read your comments, Evelyn. They're very thoughtful. It says 1:30 a.m. proposed closure time for these food trucks, right? And stands within 250 feet of restaurants. That's how you know this is the brick and mortar establishment coming after these vendors, right? Absolutely. So Evelyn, you put in there. Let me see your last two comments. Is it even competition? I don't think it's competition. You're right. I don't think the food trucks is raking it in like Prohibition or like any of these other places, right? So it's not competition in terms of like money, but you know that they really do just want to make it hostile toward one type of person. They want one type of patron, right? And then Evelyn, you went on to say, you said, I think this is going to backfire wildly. To my mind, food carts are harm reduction. Bingo. Let me say that again. Evelyn is saying, to my mind, food carts are harm reduction. Do we want drunk people driving to get cheap food? Absolutely. The food carts allow people to chill out and sober up. Absolutely. Again, maybe it's annoying to keep talking about the New York metro area. I'm just going to do it. So when I would go to a club in New York back in the day, when I would go and the club would let out like dumb late. Like we leave the club like at 4 or something like that, depending on what it was. We would just go across the street to like whatever diner, or no Waffle House, but like there was a diner or something where you can get, or there was like, you know, Gray's Papaya or whatever street meat is out there. But we would go and we would eat, get the grease, and, you know, grease helped out. I don't drink a lot, y'all, but you know, just greasy food will help you dry out. But there would be an option there within walking distance. We weren't taking cab. We took a cab, that'd be great, but we were just within walking distance. Those things really do help people recover afterwards if they've had a rowdy night. And I do think there's an element of harm reduction there. And I think that's what Booze Pops is trying to articulate. And his argument is like, look, we're sitting people down. We're making sure that they've got transportation. We're making sure that we call them a cab if they need it. And I think that's actually a legitimate argument. Jessica on Twitch, you said stop it. His whole list you talking about Chief Reynolds? His whole list to address unrest were defensive maneuvers, right? To placate business owners. Shout out Jessica, right? The police work for the boutique and the restaurant owners. That's what it feels like, especially all of their policing. Everything that they've been submitting comment for just happens to be about the business district and how to protect the business district. It's not, there isn't any conversation about other things. It's all about King Street and meeting these so-called needs of these business owners downtown. Evelyn, you said, you went on to say there's also public transportation up there, so you're not driving drunk. Right. And you know what, to that point, Evelyn, when I was an Uber driver, I remember when they cracked down on how Uber drivers could pick up folks. Now, some of that was kind of warranted, but the way there was a hostility towards Uber drivers to the point where you would ticket us for picking up somebody in the front, and like on King Street. We had to go to Ann Street or go to Mary Street. We had to go to these different intersections to pick people up, which was confusing, right? Because people are inebriated. They're not necessarily making the best choices all the time. They don't have a great sense of direction. So it was really difficult to really coordinate with folks and pick them up because there was this hostility toward Uber drivers. It just feels as if anything that makes King Street accessible to the people, to the common people, anything that would create an environment where locals could enjoy King Street, it feels as if all of that is just unwanted, very unwanted. But this is the tell. Again, the Chiron is the tell. You don't want the food trucks or the stands around your business within 250 feet of a restaurant. This is bullshit. And I think people should really stand up. I think college students should stand up to this. I think, well, they're probably not going to listen to college students, depending on if they live here or not. But there needs to be somebody getting up and yelling about this, because this will be this will backfire, as Evelyn said, for sure. All right, let's see. I was trying to.
For us to be targeted.
Now, the ordinance has only passed first reading, but it will be discussed at future council meetings. Reporting live from downtown Charleston, I'm Katie Turner. Count on 2.
Yeah, I think that's really just not a good look for Charleston, right? They were more, I'm kind of over this. I'll be honest with y'all, I'm really over like police talks. Like, I really am exhausted by this, but I need to talk about some of these things. But yeah, I'm a little exhausted. I don't know if I want to keep, even with the, let's look at this though. I want to look at this coverage again, the whole $10 million settlement statements. One more, let me just play this story. It's going to be an ad. Let me see if we can just hit mute before it pops up.
There's a new night of animation.
So this story from Live 5 News is Charleston County Sheriff issues statements on, and this is what we were waiting for. Okay, I need to review this. This is the Sheriff Graziano and her folk issuing a statement.
Live 5 News starts now with breaking news.
We're hearing from several groups for the first time since Charleston County settled with a family of Jamal Sutherland for $10 million. Teddy Pryor, who's the chairman of Charleston County Council, had this to say: "It is indeed my hope, my prayer, and sincere commitment that his unfortunate passing will lead us as a community and as elected leaders to recognize and address the growing challenges facing those in our community who struggle with mental health." That from Teddy Pryor. We'll have statements from Sutherland's family and Charleston County Sheriff Kristen Graziano today, right here on Live 5 News, coming up at 5.
Well, I didn't see it. I thought that was it. Let's see if there's a statement. Anybody? Let me see. You would think that statement would be featured prominently. Police chief says the crime trends are trending in the wrong direction. I don't know why. Y'all got all the toys and tools. I don't know why. You a top cop from Baltimore, right? From Maryland. I don't see I'm looking for like the sheriff. Let's see. Let me look at my Google alerts. Let's see right here. Let's see if there's anything. Racial Justice Network March, we covered that. The settlement, we already covered that. Yeah, I don't see it. So whenever I see it, I'll talk about it, but I don't really see it here. Yeah. So yeah, over in the chat, Mara, Whiskey Neat. It certainly feels like police and decisions being made are in restaurants and tourism decision makers' pockets. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Anyway, but I think I'm gonna call it right there. I really don't have much more to kind of go over. I do, but I'm feeling like fatigue about dealing with this. Oh, shout out to y'all. Y'all sent me down this rabbit hole. I didn't know Jessica and Steven, I don't know if Steven's still watching, probably went to work. I didn't know you both suggested this book yesterday in the chat, The Cadaver King and the Country Dentist. I fell down that rabbit hole this morning actually, and so I'm interested. Oh God, is that a cadaver? Oh God. I fell down that rabbit hole, and so I'm gonna read this book, especially the coroner part. I'm gonna jump into that. So somebody put the whole book online. Somebody put the whole book on YouTube. But yeah, I'm gonna get into that. It really talks about that issue we spoke of yesterday regarding the coroner's office and how let me switch views. And how the pathologist and the coroner working on Jamal Sutherland's case have been really doing some really interesting political maneuvering around this case, and not being forthright and making curious decisions that to me are so questionable. And so I'm interested in learning more about the history of these practices and why we're seeing it. I also want to tell folks, like, look, I guess I want to just say that as I stop looking at news and just look at the camera and talk to y'all directly, I initially wanted to have a conversation about where we are a year later. And to me, there's been some good things that have occurred by virtue of me having a new job. And my job now puts me in a position where I'm in community with, I'm in close contact with folks who do really, really impressive work around the country, not just here in the continental U.S., but in Hawaii and other places. And I've learned so much about how to be a better messenger. I've learned so much about how to be a better organizer. I've learned by watching and listening to folks how they approach this work and this fight for justice and this abolition fight. And then, what always kind of gets me sad is that seeing how slowly justice moves here in Charleston, and how the things that we were given, the Calhoun statue coming down, the concerted effort to really get the conciliation commission rolling here in Charleston, right? And I was privileged and honored to be a part of that and to serve as the minutes taker with the history and culture subcommittee led by Felice Knight, and amazing Black folks, Lee Pringle, Alicia Hendricks from the Citadel, some really amazing people. So like a year later, I've been a part of some experiences here locally that really have encouraged me and kept me going. But what we see in Charleston is a reluctance to really make policy, to really create policies that bring about real reform and real change. And I want folks to understand that, like, don't be placated by coming out of COVID and things opening back up. Oh, the Calhoun statue came down. Oh, there's this commission. Remember, the commission wasn't funded. The commission was never funded. So what we did was we worked for 6 months to create really important work and have and to offer up a really meaningful analysis of what could be corrected here in Charleston culturally, along in regards to criminal justice reform, in regards to environmental justice. All of these subcommittees came up with these amazing recommendations that are just that, recommendations. And we did all of this free work. And I'm saying, I think I should have been compensated, but the work wasn't funded. The commission wasn't funded. And we did all of this work, and I have the sneaking suspicion that work will just literally just be used for certain programmatic efforts. I mentioned this before. I'm not trying to bash any artist who is afforded an opportunity to really shine during Spoleto, to really shine during Piccolo Spoleto. But I see what's happening is that this city's going to give the appearance of inclusivity. It's going to give the appearance of parity. It's going to give the appearance of racial justice and healing without actually funding actual efforts that will bring about these really important changes. And so I want folks to not be lulled into this false sense of safety and security. Understand the fight still remains. The fact that after George Floyd that we had Jason Cooper shot and killed by police, and the fact that none of the Black Square boutique owning glitterati did anything to speak up about that, to ask for transparency, to ask for those tapes to be released. The fact that Jamal Sutherland died in January and you didn't hear a peep from a lot of these really influential figures in Charleston, the ones that participated in either the the uprising, and someone who you just didn't see any follow through. You saw a lot of posturing and a lot of performative posts, but you really didn't see anybody really push for policy change. People who know better, people who have tools, people who have friends who are lawyers, who are perhaps like-minded. You just don't see it here, and I want y'all to know that that's all intentional. It's to keep people feeling like, oh, well, things are okay here. Well, it's not as bad here, and yet we still see people people dying at the hands of police and no justification, no releasing of body cam footage. We still see problems in our schools with SROs. We just still have all these issues, and no one is really, I know people are tired, but I don't have the luxury of being tired. I don't have the luxury of not being engaged in this issue. And so I really want to recommend that folks continue to invest in their political education. You can't read your way out of this. You can't join your Facebook group and then like, I'm done. It's solved. But I do encourage people to be thoughtful in their pursuit of information that help them understand the city better. I'm going to suggest again that folks read the Charleston syllabus. It's edited by Chad Williams, Kadada E. Williams, and Keisha N. Blaine. Keisha Blaine has another book coming out. But I really suggest that people read the Charleston syllabus to get a better understanding about these issues. Of course, this came about following the Mother Emanuel massacre. I'm going to read the back of the book cover, and then I'm gonna bounce. All right. Immediately after the mass killings at Emmanuel AME Church on June 17, 2015 in Charleston, South Carolina, social media exploded with attempts to make sense of the event. The Twitter hashtag Charleston syllabus quickly emerged as a central resource to help in learning how the tragedy fit into the tumultuous history of race relations, not only in the United States, but globally. This reader collects some of the best writings to be recommended and debated using the Charleston syllabus hashtag, featuring a variety of texts such as songs, poems, historical documents, op-eds, and excerpts from books and journals. Charleston syllabus is a tool for understanding the roots of American systemic racism, white privilege, the uses and abuses of the Confederate flag and its ideals, the Black church as a foundation for civil rights activity, and much more. So I really suggest that people continue their reading. Though this work emerged after Mother Emanuel, it's still foundational. It's still important to read this syllabus to get a better understanding as to how to really navigate these white supremacist forces throughout the city. And if you don't think white supremacy contributed to the death of Jamal Sutherland, you're sorely mistaken. If you don't think white supremacy factors in to why cops don't have to disclose body cam or dash cam footage, even after a FOIA request has been submitted multiple times by media outlets and by other groups fighting for more transparency, if you think that white supremacy is not at the root of that, you're sorely mistaken. And again, you improving your political education is not going to solve the issue, but it helps you at least engage in this conversation from a perspective that's not rooted in white supremacy, from a perspective that's not of the privileged. So throw away those Robin DiAngelo books, throw those shits in the garbage. Throw Robin DiAngelo, all her bullshit, white fragility. We don't need to read about how to make white people feel more comfortable talking about race. Throw all that white fragility mess out the window and pick up the Charleston syllabus and start understanding some things and start having a meaningful conversation about why we are in the position we're in today. All right. That's my recommendation. The website that goes with the book is a great resource as well. Thank you for that. So there's a website and you can see all that. Order the book. I have multiple copies of the book. I've given out copies of the book. All right, let me see. Jonick James, you said crime has conveniently risen in since black people decided they weren't taking the cop shit anymore. Absolutely. Yeah. Evelyn, you said such a long history of commissions in this country. Yes, commissions, and it's a bureaucratic exercise in futility. I do believe some commissions bear some really good fruit, but more often than not, it's just looking busy. It's just activity versus achievement. Looking active, looking as if you're actively trying to root out these ills when you're not really achieving much. So we need to talk about that. And I find myself filled with rage sometimes whenever I think back on all of the performative bullshit, especially the stuff that got me caught up. I get filled with rage when I think about all of these very influential institutions who refuse to really, and I'm not saying that all these businesses should just be like, Black Lives Matter flags on it. I'm not saying that, but there's so many missed opportunities where folks said, we know what, we'll create programming that's led by Black people, as opposed to, hey, you know what, maybe we can help craft some policy. And it's so funny because members of the CVB will be in meetings and being included in communication that's literally designed to change policy. If you don't think the CVB is a political tool, is a strong political influence, I don't know what to tell you. And so I see members of the CVB leverage their relationship with this powerful entity and be instrumental in the crafting of these anti-local, anti-vendor, anti-small guy, anti-small business policies that they're floating out with curfews and food truck restrictions. I see y'all are members, y'all are dues paying members of the CVB, yet you can't find your footing enough to say, hey, we can do this outside of the CVB, but in the interest of the people. We can do that there. I would recommend that if you are a so-called, I hate this term, I'm just using it for this argument. If you are a so-called woke business and you threw up a black square, I would suggest you end your membership, end your affiliation with the CVB, and join Low Country Local First, LLF. That's who you should be supporting. And maybe y'all are on both, but I don't think you can serve two masters. I would really recommend you white businesses out here that say you have this thoughtful, I guess, race analysis. Support LLF. Join LLF. Figure out how you can support small local businesses and keep Charleston local and keep Charleston small, and small in terms of keep its character, and help support entrepreneurs who don't have millions and millions of dollars, of investor money from outside the country and outside the state. Think about that. Think about what kind of taxes you could propose on outside developers from other states. Why not tax them before they build another hotel? Why not a damn 2% tax to these developers who are coming in from Georgia, who coming in from New York, who coming in from all these other places? Why not tax them? If they want to build another 3-4 story hotel in your city, why not tax them and use that money to fund some of this important work? Why not get with a Low Country Local First and figure out how you can impact policies and start speaking up against some of this stuff that's happening? I don't know why. I don't know why, but pick this up. You can't read your way out of it, but damn it, start talking about this shit from the correct perspective. Put down white fragility, put down all that, pick up the Charleston syllabus. And start figuring out some shit. Start reading some black shit. Anna Marks, you dropped the link. I'll look at it after I hop off over on Facebook. But yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say. I'm really like, what has changed? What has changed policy wise? What has changed policy wise? Why didn't anyone take to the streets whenever the cops kill other black people? So, yeah, I don't know what's changed. Tyler Bessinger out here literally participating in insurrection, and he able to be on the news talking about lying to people, talking, oh, I'm just a conservative, I'm pro police reform. No, you're pro chaos. You're pro. You participated in an activity that led to the literal death of other Americans. What you did was anti-American. You are a whole terrorist. Tyler Bessinger and Corey Allen Whittington, whatever the fuck his name is. You are a whole white supremacist, and the fact that these men were able to hold court in this city after George Floyd, after those protests, that they were able and allowed to bring the Proud Boys to this city, that they had at some point had talked had convinced us, not even convinced, but had enlisted the services, enlisted the help willingly, and enlisted Harry Griffin's help. Harry Griffin was a willing participant in a white supremacist rally before he was exposed, right? The fact that these white supremacists were then given platforms following what we saw, you tell me what's changed. You tell me where you would give a permit to the Proud Boys. Like, how does that... Oh, the Calhoun statue came down. You know, it came down after years and years and years, after almost like 100 years of protest. It came down. It came down after the city and the mayor, including Mayor Tecklenburg, lied about who owned the statue, who owned the park, and who was empowered, who was able to bring it down. You lied to us for years. You lied to us my whole life about who owned that statue. So delayed justice, you get no gold star for bringing down something that should have been brought down years and years ago, especially under Riley. Right. Philippe the rapper. What is that? All right, that's it. I'm gonna get off. That's it. I don't know what's changed. I kind of feel sad, but I'm really happy because my Knicks won. So, all right, y'all take care. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. See you tomorrow morning. Bye.